So as I said, my name is Christina Lister. I am one of the enrollment advisors here at Burman University, and I am joined by two of my wonderful colleagues on campus. And they're going to be sharing some of their expertise in their areas on how to support your Burman University student. So before we get started, I do want to acknowledge that Burman University is located within hereditary Indigenous land, and we acknowledge that the land on which we gather is Treaty 6 territory. Established in 1876, the traditional home and meeting ground for many First Nations people, including the Blackfoot, Dene, Cree, and Métis. Burman University is committed to doing its part to address the legacy of broken promises and rebuild productive partnership relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples in central Alberta and across Canada. So today, some of the topics that we're going to be covering are some parent resources for you as a parent of a Burman University student and ways to support your child. We will also touch on information about the residence hall if that is applicable to you and your student. We have our director for the Sakala Success Centre here, and then we'll have a question and answer period at the end. So again, if there are any questions that come up during the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll make sure to answer them at the end. A reminder for those of your students that may not have finished their application, it is easy as 1, 2, 3, and the 3 means we're done. So we need you to go to burmanu.ca/apply. It is free to apply for domestic students, and you will send in a copy of your transcripts. If you're an Alberta student, that is automatically done by the Apply Alberta website, and that's all we need in order to process your application. So any supporting documents can be sent to our admissions office, and they will be the ones to communicate with you once we have everything in place. So without further ado, we'll get started with our webinar.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening in whatever time zone you are in. My name is Stacy Hunter. I'm the Vice President for Student Services here. I'm going to touch base on a number of topics related to portfolios that fall under my responsibility. Most everything here on campus that's non-academic is in that dynamic. So I may end up jumping all over the place, but it's in an attempt to just give you some pointers here and there that I've noticed over my 17 years of being here on this campus and working with university students, what I see and how you as a parent can be supportive. One of the biggest things I see from university students is figuring out their newfound freedom. And with that newfound freedom of being an adult, many of them, as well as a university students making decisions for themselves, is the increased level of responsibility. So as a parent, just be aware that when your student registers, they actually have to be active in indicating that you can be on their file to gain information from us. Otherwise, we as a university have to treat them as that adult and respect their privacy, which may actually lock you out from knowing what's going on campus. So I would encourage you right off through registration to make sure that they put your name in the registration, that you can communicate and know what's happening. That's especially nice when some of you might be helping foot the financial bill and knowing what that looks like. The other thing that I've seen over the years is, and one of the biggest struggles that I've seen from students is that of time management. Christina, go ahead and forward the slide. There we go. So looking here on, and I'm actually referencing a parent handbook that is on our website under the student service page that you can reference later. But time management is one of those key things that is a stress for students at this level. The academic level increases quite a bit from high school, and it's necessary for your child to really pay attention to the time they need working on their academics. And this document here actually highlights and recommends that as they build their calendars, to remember that they need approximately 4 hours of outside study for every credit hour that they spend in the classroom. So they need to calculate that. My kids, having gone through university and or are working through university, I've actually, as a parent, taken time to help them block off time, just like they would block off their class time, block off study time. That is their committed time for that. And that affords them then to find time that they can do other things and engage in activities around the campus otherwise. Speaking of other activities on campus, you can also find on our website a very up-to-date and detailed calendar of events that can be downloaded into your virtual calendars, and you can follow along and see many of the different deadlines, academic deadlines, financial deadlines, and activities. One of the things our university has been commended for by third-party analyzers, and Nessie has given us a thumbs up related to the extracurricular things that we have available on our campus. We take the position on this campus that we're a holistic institution, not just academic, but the physical, spiritual, and social parts of their development are also important. And so we have a calendar that's active, not just Monday through Friday, but we have things going on throughout the weekends as well that your son or daughter can participate in and have opportunity to not just learn, but to have fun as well. In a minute, our director of the Sakala Success Centre is going to dive a little bit further into the idea of what services and resources we have through her department. And that's great. But as a parent, it's also good to know what is available to your young people so that when and if, and I'll say more when than if, they come to you looking a little stressed, looking a little worried, that you have an idea of how you might be able to help them. So we want you to know as much as they of what services and resources we have on campus. And that's part of the reason why we're here on campus now. Also be aware of, again, the extracurricular activities that are available to them, whether it's athletic, whether it's music, whether it's the many different, I believe, 29 different clubs that we have on campus. We do want them to get involved. And speaking of that, an involved student, I have found over the years, someone who's involved and has found things to do on campus outside of academic versus the student who stays in their room and never comes out. The one that has a more holistic approach to their education is more successful. So encourage them to become involved, encourage them to find activities that they like on our campus. As a parent myself, and there's an example of the calendar that we have. So follow through. I will also say that related to calendar, you can go to the next page too, Christina. Related to the calendar, one thing that I have found over the years is that the stress of a student escalates through the semester. Usually starts off, well, we start off with a lot of fun and games in our QQuest new student orientation, which starts a week before classes actually start. We do a lot of things there that they have opportunity to meet other students, learn a lot about our campus and have fun. But things do get serious as the semester rolls on. And usually with that, the level of stress and anxiety increases as well. So as a parent, be aware of that as well. There are, and I'm just going to mention, you can see it on the second page of this. It says there are 6 things first-year students want their parents to know. And let me just highlight them because it might be a little hard to see there. University, mom and dad, is not a 9-to-5 job. Evening and weekends study is required. Enormous amounts of time are demanded by university coursework, and I mentioned to you about what that ratio looks like, give or take. Administrative processes take time and may not be completed with a single visit. A significant amount of stress can result from the change from high school to university, and it does. It's an increased load for your son and daughter, so be there for them when they need you. And there are other expenses in addition to tuition, and we can talk about that if you have any questions at the end of this. For a parent, I'm also going to mention the next section here where it says red flags. Here's where you can help us. If you see any of these things before we do, we want to know about them, because these are the kind of things that indicates that they're not doing so well. Yes, every student has stress and anxiety, but when it gets to a point where we need to put things in place to help them through, oftentimes you as a parent see it before we do. So when tearful conversations outnumber other conversations, so you will have tearful conversations, especially if they live in the dorm and away from you. There's that level in the first month of homesick. I used to try to encourage parents to, once you leave them, don't come back for a month, because they're going to go through a level of homesickness, and just giving them that time to adjust is key. But when that becomes more than and outnumbers other conversations, then we want to know that. Unexplained weight loss might be something to note. Frequent illness, excessive fatigue, absenteeism and failure. Our institution, a number of our professors require attendance. I know some universities don't, but our professors take an active role in wanting to make sure our students are doing well. And part of that, we believe, and I know from my experience, that being in class is essential for that success. Significant money problems or debt, or the talk of hopelessness or lack of purpose, or abrupt mood changes. Those are some of the things that you might see before we do. And if that's the case, we want to know. And with that, I'll just state, be that good listener, but give them good strategies to figure things out for themselves is always one way to do that. So I kind of sum it up on the next page, Christina. I kind of sum it up with the idea of 5 ways to support your student, allow them the freedom to learn and to grow. An interesting stat is that many students who start in one major change their major. I think that stat, it doesn't say it here, but I think it's somewhere around 60% of students end up changing their majors at some point in time. Work with them. They're going to experience anxiety, recognize that, listen to that, help them through, and help them make good choices. I've also been asked, because our administrative dean search is still going on, so in the absence of our administrative dean, I just wanted to also kind of change focus here and talk about our dorm structure. We have a housing policy that does require a first-year student to either live with their parents or live in our dorms. And our dorms have deans that are here to support and to provide. There are a number of dorm activities. So we have what we call our Lakeview Hall dorm residence area, in which your student would start. And that location is a beautiful location that has many supports built into it. There are student RAs on each floor, and resident deans available whenever they are needed. They also like to do things that aren't campus-wide. They like to do things like Super Bowl party, tailgate parties, and things like that, just for dorm students as well. So if the dorm is of interest to you, I know there is a link on the website and through the registration that indicates your interest of whether they're living at home or living in our dorms, and they can register and give us an idea of what kind of roommate they might like, what kind of room they might like. We're here for them, and we look forward to having them on site if that's what they choose. Otherwise, we look forward to having them here on campus throughout the day. And in mention to that, if they choose not to and they live at home instead of living in the dorm, there are a number of student lounges on and around campus available to students where they can bring and leave stuff in lockers, in refrigerators. They can cook for themselves in those lounges, any lunch or supper that they might need. So we are here to help and support, and thank you for the opportunity to share that this evening. On to Elise.
Sorry, I was on mute. Oh, every time you think you got it figured out. So I am Elise Krautoff, and I am the director of the Sakala Success Centre. So down in our center, we provide a lot of different supports that are available to students to, I want to say, make it easier for them to be successful. But it really, if they are dedicated and want to be successful in their classes and they find they are in some way not reaching what they think is their full potential, they can come down and talk to us, and we can implement a lot of different strategies to support them in their academic journey. Stacy mentioned that time management was a big issue with especially first-year students when they're really trying to make that transition from high school into university. And they quickly learn that if they could skate through high school with very little studying, university is quite different. So one of the things that we will provide for them is to have them come in, and we can help them develop a study schedule. And we sit down, we look at their classes, we have conversations with them about how much time do you think you will need to study for this class every week? And we walk them through that. And every new student gets an academic planner that they can carry around with them. And we will help them write everything into that planner. And then if they want to put it into some, app or something, they can do that as well. But that's one of the things that we can do to support them. So in our center, we have 3 staff. There's myself. Then we have Crystal Johnson. She's the office manager, and she's also the disability and accessibility coordinator. She also is the testing coordinator, and she's really the first point of contact for any student who comes into our center. Then we also have Tamara Van Rensburg, and she is our school counselor. So one thing that we're very fortunate to offer students are counseling sessions. So if we have a student who, whether they come to our campus and they already know that they might need certain types of supports in certain areas, they have free access to the counselor. And what I tell students is that probably at no other point in your life will you have access to a counselor for free. So if they want to try counseling, if they've had to leave their counselor behind, we encourage them to come in, have a meet and greet with Tamara. And if there's a good match, that's fantastic. If not, we also have contacts in the community, and we can set up appointments for them with a community-based counselor. Some of those counselors will provide sessions virtually. Some will actually come to our center and see students in our center. So those are different options for students who want to pursue counseling in one way or another. Also through our center, we arrange for tutoring. So if we have students who need tutoring in specific classes, we can arrange that. Now, for some of our classes, we have general tutoring sessions. So it's more like group tutoring, drop-in kind of tutoring. And for other classes, if there's only one or two individuals who are in need of a tutor, we can help pair them up with someone who can provide that tutoring. And again, at no cost to the student. In terms of academics, we also can do either one-on-one conversations or workshop style presentations for different types of study skills. So it could be test-taking strategies, reading strategies, note-taking, dealing with test anxiety. We see that a lot. We've seen an increase in students who have a lot of anxiety around taking exams. So we can provide that for students as well. One thing we really encourage students to do, so all the new students who come to Burman, they receive an invitation to participate in something called the CSI, the College Student Inventory. And that's a free assessment that they can complete prior to coming to campus. And we will, based on their answers, we will receive a report for that student. We will invite them into our center. We will go through it with them. And the great thing about that assessment is that it will identify for a student what their strengths are, and then also create awareness around areas that they may need additional support, just to get them thinking about, okay, I'm in a math class. If I'm not doing great, I can come in here and get tutoring or some other type of assistance. So if you decide to come to Burman and you receive that invitation to, or where your student, your child receives that invitation, encourage them to complete it. And then again, once they arrive on campus, we will contact them and invite them in to have a sit down with us to go through what the results of that were. Also through our campus, I mentioned that Crystal Johnson is the accessibility and disability coordinator. If you have if there are students who come to our campus and in high school or in their previous post-secondary institution, they were receiving accommodations because of a diagnosed learning disability or in ADHD, anxiety, depression, they need to come into our office with their documentation, and we will be able to, again, have a discussion with them around what types of supports they have received in the past and how we can implement those while they're here on our campus. So typically, students who had, for example, an IEP, so an individual education plan in high school, it's very likely they may have documentation to support reasons as to why that was put into place. And again, bringing that into our office at the beginning of the term, before they even start their classes, puts us in a really good position to be able to identify supports and set them up should they decide they want to use them. So keep that in mind for your student as well. Now, Stacy mentioned that a lot of times when students arrive on campus, they actually end up changing their major. And we can help with that as well. So there are a number of assessments that we can provide for students that can help them kind of zero in on where their strengths will flourish in the field of a vocational field or occupations. So for example, sometimes we have students who are headed down the path to be an educator, so a school teacher. And then they realize, oh, maybe I'm not so great at working with kids every day, but I still love the field of education. They can come in and chat with us, and we can explore other areas within the field of education where they might be able to find a really good fit for a profession. So maybe it would be more on the administrative side or educational leadership or curriculum development. we're always happy to have students come in and have those conversations with us, because we want our students not only to be here and get educated, but to be able to feel passionate about what it is they're going into, the field that they want to go into. So we have the MBTI assessment, the Strong Interest Inventory, and the 16 PF. So those are both career-oriented and then for personality development. We can also work with students in developing resumes if that's something that's of interest to them. And oh yes, well, I kind of already talked about the counseling. So what's the next slide, Christine? Oh, well, okay. Before we go out of the serious stuff that we provide at the Sakala Success Center, we also try to do a lot of really fun activities for students on our campus to address the wellness aspect of being a student. So as Stacy mentioned, there's a lot of anxiety and homesickness that students feel when they first arrive on campus, especially if it's the first time they've lived away from home and if they've come here from far away. And it is amazing that you can be on a campus with hundreds of students around you, in a classroom with, you know, dozens of students around you, and still you feel very lonely and very isolated. So at the Sakala Success Center, we try to at least once a month have a variety, a different type of activity where students can come, be with other people, have fun in a very non-threatening, engaging way. So it might be a game night. It might be a cookout at the fire pit. It might be a gingerbread building competition and step mania competition. Things that just bring people together, lots of good food, and hopefully the opportunity for people to make friends and start to have that more holistic experience while being on campus. One other thing that we do out of our center is to provide a variety of different types of mental health, mental health training. So we've provided mental health first aid, Question, Persuade, and Refer, which is a suicide prevention program, Film for Thought, The Inquiring Mind, first responders to disclosures of sexual violence. So there's a lot of opportunities for students to also participate in activities we do that are things that they could put on a resume and that would be very useful if, regardless of what field that they want to go into. So we definitely encourage students to stop by and have a chat, have some good food, sit in our massage chair. And that's our center.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elise and Stacy, for sharing your insight and your information about what you're able to provide to our incoming students and the security that we can give to our parents that are on the webinar this evening, that your children will be taken care of. We're excited to have them on our campus, and we want to make sure that they are thriving with us just as much as they are at home. So we encourage you to get connected with us. We have social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We always encourage our students to connect with us on those social sites to see what student life is like. The events that Stacy talked about, the events that Elise talked about, are broadcast on our Instagram and our Facebook. We do have live stream as well. So if your son or daughter is in our choir or on our acros team and you're unable to make it out for one of their concerts, you are able to connect with them through the live stream. So then you can still be a part of their experience while they're here on campus without necessarily having to fly out every time they have a concert. But again, we encourage you to join us on our social media, connect with us that way so that you can keep up to date with the events that are happening, the calendar events and things like that. We do have a question and answer period. I haven't seen any questions come into the chat yet, but But if you are interested in any questions getting answered by our specialists here this evening, please feel free to throw them in the chat. We won't hold you too long, so if there's a bit of a gap and there's no questions that come in, we will let you go. But I do want to introduce the marketing team, so the recruiters that are in this marketing office. There's myself, Christina Lister. I work with Alberta students that are in public schools or not in our academies, and I also work with transfer students as well. We have Tyler Saunders, who works with students coming from Eastern Canada and the Eastern United States. And then Mario Parchment is the recruiter that works with Western Canada, Western United States, as well as international students. So we are happy to connect with you, answer any questions. If you're a parent of a student in any of these territories and you have questions that you need answers, please reach out to us. We're able to direct you to the people that can answer those questions if we don't have the answers for you. So I'm just checking. I don't see anything in the chat. So again, I want to thank you so much for taking your time this evening to come and join us for this webinar. We hope that it was beneficial for you. And for those of you that are watching this afterwards, please feel free to reach out to us if you do have any questions that have come up from this webinar. Thank you again and have a great evening.
Thank you.